a lot of people that got into the business when it was kind of easy and stuff was just falling from the sky, and that's what the business was. And everybody that has a pulse and a job can get a mortgage or wants to buy a house or wants to sell and upgrade. Those days are gone.
Welcome back to the CashFlow podcast, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. I'm your host, Jason Yoss. And before we get into it with my special guest today, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Rainforest Plumbing, Heating, and Air, servicing the entire Phoenix Valley. They're great, and they're a go-to for everything you need in the HVAC sector. And then I also want to thank Daniels Plumbing, servicing San Diego, Orange, LA, and then Inland Empire. They do everything you need in the Southern California area. Without them, we couldn't have this show. And now to my guest, friend, and Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to you.
Yeah, you too.
Chris Catania. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good.
It's great to have you back, man.
Yeah.
So Chris, the lead over at C Group of Fairway Independent Mortgage, all things mortgage. Talk to me about how things are going in the market today.
Well, I mean, it depends on like what aspect of the market that you're talking about. You know, there's a lot in the news cycle. There's a lot in the psyche of the client and even the real estate or mortgage professional that's going on right now. Yeah. So it's a really interesting time, right? Like maybe challenging is a word, but I think it's interesting because I think it's a period of like change, and there's like a period of growth that's kind of coming down the pipeline, which is usually what happens after a tough time. You know, there's some shakeups and there's some opportunity there. So there's a lot going on.
Talk to me about the mindset, because I hear this from realtors. Everybody's cousin, sister's brother who was a loan officer, it kind of disappeared. Yeah. But you've been running a team. You have multiple branches. You're not only that, but you're a coach. What is the mindset that you're talking to your team and the people that you coach, how to handle this change?
Yeah. So let's say if I'm talking to somebody on our team or one of our loan officers or even one of our, partners in the real estate space, right now, I think it's really important to have a high level of emotional intelligence and understanding like what is kind of going through the psyche of the person across from you. They're making a really big decision. They're making it at what could feel like a unstable time because of the news cycle, the tariffs, the economy, the government shutdown. Rates are getting cut, but somehow rates are higher. How did that work? And so nobody really, there's not a lot of people out there that have like this really warm and fuzzy, or it's not the 2020, 2021 rates are 2.5. Everything you look at's a slam dunk. Money's cheap. That stuff doesn't really exist. So understanding where they're at and then being able to fill that advisory role is really important. I think to your point, a lot of people that got into the business when it was kind of easy and stuff was just falling from the sky, and that's what the business was. And everybody that has a pulse and a job can get a mortgage or wants to buy a house or wants to sell and upgrade. Those days are gone, right? Yeah. So now it's like the professionals that are left standing, or the people that, even if you're new in the business, you've poured into the business and you've taken that role. Yep. If you were dancing on TikTok selling houses, like you're probably gone, right? Or if all you were doing was picking up a phone book and saying, hey, I can do 2.5, like send me your social, that stuff's done.
Yeah. If you were dancing on TikTok, you may or may not still be working in the loan industry, in the lending industry.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No offense to anybody who dances on TikTok.
No, if you dance on TikTok, good for you. But I don't. Yeah. That's a no. I'm not. That's not my lender. Hopefully, that's not my lender. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about with the ever changing. Rates are always changing, but this isn't your first rodeo. Yeah. How do you keep everybody focused when? Do you talk about the past? Like, hey, here's how things were when I first started. Do you get into the prediction model? Like, what do you do to calm people's fears? And we talked about clients who want to refinance or want to buy, and they're not sure about the market. What are you saying to them that keeps them calm?
Well, I think for most people, it's data, right? It's data, it's expertise, it's perspective. So, when you're going through this, I don't think that there's a lot of benefit in looking back at the past.
Okay.
If you want to play that game, right? It was always cheaper to buy real estate yesterday, no
Right.
matter what no matter what day you're sitting in, it was always cheaper to buy it earlier.
Yep.
So, if you're going to look back and say, well, I wish things were like this, well, what about like you have to also wish that you had done things at that point or even before that, right? Like in '08, terrible time, quote unquote, to buy real estate and get into real estate. If you bought real estate and you stayed consistent and held on to it, like you've crushed it so far. So looking back, I don't think is a great exercise.
Right.
I think that like giving people data and your experience and expertise is different. Like a lot of people in the mortgage business, they're not asking their client to do a written budget and figure out like how much money do you really have at the end of the month, not what your debt ratio says or whether I push this button and it tells me approve or deny.
Preach, brother.
That has
preach.
nothing to do with it. And so once you start unpacking that and saying, hey, is this right for you financially?
Yeah.
Is this something that we could, if rates get better in the future, great. That's a silver lining. That's icing on the cake.
Right.
But here we are right now. Is this the right investment? Does it work for your finances? Are you budgeted for it? And if not, that's okay. Like, what do we do to put you on the path to get there? Or maybe we need to have a hard conversation and just say, hey, like this might not be right for you right now, regardless of whether I can get you approved.
Way to speak the truth,
Yeah.
because we're both big fans of Dave Ramsey. And you don't have to believe all of Dave Ramsey's message to understand that just living within your means, actually putting out a budget. And once you achieve that, you're in a better fiscal environment, because that's how your family does better when you're not under crushing debt. So is this the right loan for you? What are your goals? And if we're not able to line those two, maybe let's have a hard talk about, is this the right place? Is it the right time? But when you talk data, what are you using technology-wise, process-wise, that you're super excited about? And I want to have this conversation and then circle back to what do you think about the 50-year mortgage? But first, talk to me about, like, the reality is like data. You said it, like people, they need to see data. They need to feel comfortable in their choices. Are you using processes? Are you using different techniques? What are you doing to get that set up for success?
Yeah. I mean, we are in a day and age, like in our space and in pretty much every other industry, because of emerging technologies, where there's no shortage of tools and tech and systems and ways of presenting information. And it's almost like tool overload.
Yeah.
Right. And then the client, for us having this like slick delivery of the information and all these moving things and charts and graphs, like, we do this every day and we look at it every day. So to us, that's really slick and it's really great. For most consumers, there's only a handful of things that they're really concerned about.
Okay.
So I think using the tools to be able to give them a full picture, right? Like some sort of a scenario delivery document or system is nice. Like that's a nice thing to have.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's the conversation around the biggest things that are important. Like I honestly believe that tech and everything else that's coming out right now, as far as like, getting things in front of your client and tracking this and tracking that and a chart and a graph and data for this, I think it's great. But I think that somebody who's out there making connections and sitting down with people and advising them with a pad of paper and a calculator can do just as much business.
What are the three things then, or two things that come to mind that you're like, hey, these are the things they really want to see, not the super shiny bells and whistles. Right. These are the things that not only does it behoove me to show them, but they really want to see.
Yeah.
They want to know.
Yeah. I mean, people want to know what the cash out of pocket is going to be. They want to know what the payment is. They want to know what the rate is. They want to know, what does this mean for them? Are they in a good position? Is this just because they're financing it? Can they afford it? Right. And then they want to know kind of what your input is on the situation. So when you're talking about tech, something as easy as Chat GPT, especially a lot of companies now have enterprise versions where you can actually put, information into the system and get more insights. Those are ways that you're leveraging technology to be a better advocate and have more expertise. Because I'm saying, hey, I've got these two things lined up. This is what's right for the client. I think here's the two scenarios. Give me some feedback. I'm asking, let's say a GPT, give me some feedback and some things to think about ahead of my meeting with them, where I'm going to deliver the information. And there might be one or two things that pop up where I go, shit, I didn't think about that, or like
Sure.
that's a really good way to look at this, or it noticed something in the data that maybe I didn't. Um, so I think, that's one of the tools, and you can, that's like such an overarching thing. So like
Yeah.
your ability to use AI to make you better at what only you can do
Right.
is super important. Right
Better
now.
than sticking in and making a big general thing. And I do. I hear that all the time. Like that question, what are you using AI for? How are you using AI for your customer? And a lot of times I think we forget that like the expert to client communication and connection is so important. And if AI is, or you're trying to replace that with some kind of AI tool, like that may not be the best. It may be better to use that as a supplement, as you described.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
let the expert get more tools to help that client and help
Yeah.
that connection
Yeah.
versus take it over. So
Well, like in the real estate and mortgage space, like, I might be being generous when I say that I think that in 24 months from now, like our job is going to look completely different.
sure,
The fundamentals will still be there,
sure.
but the way that we do things, like the clicking of the buttons and all the collecting of the paper, that's going to go away.
Yeah.
And so then what's going to be left is, people are choosing you for your expertise and how you make them feel and the guidance
Yep.
that you gave them and your experience in the job. And so kind of going back to the AI thing, I helped develop like an AI product that is designed to help you connect with people, build relationships, find common ground, core values, anytime like that intersects. So it actually pulls data on a prospect, and then it merges the two profiles together, and it gives you everything you need to know: hobbies, beliefs, common ground. Creates an AI sales assistant so you can talk to it and ask like, hey, what would be important to Jason in this conversation
Wow.
based on what you know? And then it's for you to take that information and be better at building the relationship and doing what you can do,
Yeah.
right? Because AI can't do that part, not at least not yet. Maybe it'll.
And I got to be honest, from my industry, like if you ever, in property management, if you ever think, oh, with all this technology, when I post a property online and a renter prospect goes to find it, oh, it's so easy. It actually can be overload. I'm assuming in the mortgage industry, it's the same thing. Like nowadays, if somebody goes online and they're trying to go like, hey, what's my rate and payment for something? It can be overwhelming. It's over tools, too much stuff. And
Yeah.
so utilizing it to be a better connector, to be a better advocate for a client seems to make much more sense. What's this called and how long have you been using it and how are you teaching your team to use it?
Yeah, so it's called sales.ai. So it's
Okay.
PSY, like
Okay.
psychological sales. And it's been, we put it together like 2 years ago. Essentially, what it is, it's a bunch of methodologies that I took out of the Army and psychological operations, and then a lot of the stuff that we've had success with in the sales side. And I came out of that training at the Special Warfare Center, and I was already in the mortgage business for a little while when I had done that. And I was like, man, why am I not using stuff like this to actually grow my business? There's so many cool things that you can do as far as shaping messaging and making sure that it resonates and just connecting with people and knowing what creates connection and how to get those two things connected so it's organic and it's real. And so I started using that in my business and teaching it to people. And one of the pieces of feedback that we always got when we were teaching people about it was like, this is great and it's amazing, but it's like, you kind of got to know what you're doing and it kind of takes time. So as technology progressed, we were like, hey, based on what we're trying to do, these technologies can now do the things that used to take time. It can process the information and give the feedback that you would otherwise have to have the skill set to pick out and find and put together.
Right.
So now it does it for you. And it's been really cool. You plug it in before you have an important meeting with somebody, and it finds things that maybe you wouldn't have found on your own. It gives you ideas that maybe you wouldn't have had on your own. It shows you where you have some commonality so you don't miss those opportunities to connect on those. A lot of salespeople show up to things and they use maybe their product knowledge or their ability to be likable,
Right.
and they kind of just wing it.
They wing it.
Yeah,
Wing
yeah,
it.
and then
So many people wing it.
yeah, and then you're trying to then it becomes like, hey, real connection is like I'm trying to hit a bullet with another bullet, and hopefully I say the thing
Right.
that's going to create it. But now having a little bit of knowledge beforehand, you kind of know like, hey, I'm organically connected with this person. We share this experience. We share this value. Like that's what we need to be talking about.
What kind of input do you have to do in order to get the output that sets you up for success in a sales meeting like that? Is it just the name and their social, or like what are you getting?
It can be as easy as the name. It can be the name and location is usually enough to get everything started.
It scrapes all the data from online, and they know your social media.
Merges it with everything it knows about you, and then gives you like a full dashboard on, what's going on with them. Where do you have common ground? You can chat with it. I can say, I'm meeting with Jason today to film a podcast. Like, what should I know? What should I bring up? And it'll ping little things like that. So it's really cool. And I think that's like one of the evolutions of AI in a service-based industry or an advisory-based industry. Putting data together so you get more accurate data and more deliverable data to the client. That's probably one of it.
Right.
Automating tasks that were time-consuming for you before. That's the other part. And then the other side that I think is much less tapped into is, how do I become a better connector? How do I get a higher level of emotional intelligence? How do I make sure that my sales meetings go better? I have a higher probability of the desired outcome.
When you look around the industry, especially when you look at your team in general, how do is your competition using things like this, or is this relatively new to the industry? And how do you train your salespeople to utilize this and take advantage of it so they can be effective in connecting with prospective clients?
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody that's really doing the same thing.
Is it because military background, we're honed into hey, we go to everything with a plan in preparation, like winging it is not a good, hope is not a good course of action?
Well, I think part of it's that, and I think the other part of some of these projects and some of these things that have come out, the purpose of those is automation.
Right.
It's a removal of the person from the process. So the low-hanging fruit in the industry is, how do I take something away so that you don't have to do it anymore? How do I streamline this? How do I package this thing so it looks like you don't have to do anything?
Yeah, super correct. Yeah.
Which is part of it. And that's where I think a lot of the emphasis is, because that's like the immediate gratification of the consumer.
Yep.
But the other part is doing the work. And it's like, hey, you need to invest in what it is that you do well, what makes you the actual that's going to succeed. Because you lean too hard into that side of the technology. Once the consumer gets used to that new process,
I don't need you.
Why would they? It's not unattractive that if the system could do it all by itself and you never had to talk to anybody and it was instantaneous.
But that's totally not true. Especially anybody who's ever bought a home. Really, your lending process was they never called you and said, "Oh, and we need this and we need." It's not just a click of a button, or maybe for a small select group of people. So you're 100% right. You definitely hit the nail with the hammer right there. What are you seeing in loans today that make a tool like this help you even more? Is there more non-traditional loans? Are there?
Yeah.
Is everybody a W-2 employee now? Are there more regulations that you have to swim through? How is this helping you on that side of it?
Yeah, I think like we were talking about earlier, the client profile of the person that's out there that's buying real estate right now is a lot different than it has been maybe historically, right? So you've got people that are relocating for work, maybe the family's expanding and they have to do it. Maybe they're retiring, whatever the case may be. Or maybe they're people that have started businesses and are doing well on paper, but they don't show everything to the IRS on their tax returns, or they write a lot of stuff off. So a lot of these non-traditional and kind of outside the box loans, they're definitely becoming more prevalent because there's more of that client profile. I've got hundreds of people in the system that are active on pre-approvals. I don't know that I have one that's like your postal worker, school teacher couple, right? They're just not really out in the marketplace right now.
W-2, 6 months of reserves. You're 100% right. I feel like our world is changing, and I wonder if the lending guidelines are just going to be behind.
They're definitely catching up.
Are they? Are they catching up a little bit? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a little bit of easing, maybe not in a reckless way,
right?
But there's a little bit of easing and trying to create opportunities, like the non-traditional stuff for the business owner or the contractor. There's P&L only programs. There's 1099 only programs. There's verification of employment only programs. There's bank statement programs. So there's a lot of potential solutions for people that are out there trying to get into the market.
What's different about, from your perspective, about the way, outside of just technology, the way the loans were looked at and done when you started versus now? Is it more that like, hey, business owner type profiles are much more acceptable, there's a lot more products for them, or the way they look at paperwork or ratios? Like, what's different now than it was, when you started?
So since I started, so in December, I will have been in this business for 20 years.
I love it.
So I was like, this was like my first job, like while I was still even going to school.
Yep.
And I just kind of got stuck here, right? Like in a good way.
Still doing it.
In a good way. But so we went from kind of a normal period, and then we kind of slid into the 05, 6, 7 days, where then it was like, if you have a pulse, you get a loan. And then coming out of 08, there was this huge overcorrection where there was a credit crunch and everything became very stringent and hard to get financing for. And I think that that's now just kind of starting to soften more. They're making better decisions. Your ability to repay has to be there. But if we're talking about your ability to repay, what kind of alternative things can we get from you that show that you have the ability?
Yeah.
And that stuff has been loosening up. So I think there's still like some, trauma in the industry from 08. But that's starting to loosen up. And
what are you, and again, with all that experience in the industry, what is the common question or common thread you're getting from your realtor partners when they call you and say, look, Chris, I've got a client, they're ready to buy, I need you to look at a pre-approval, or hey, they got pre-approved over here, but like, I'm not sure if this is going to work and I want this escrow to close. What are you hearing from them, and how are you helping them get their clients across the finish line?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with getting people data, right? Like, you're not going to, and you should never be talking anybody into anything. It's not about selling anything. Right. So it's, what can I talk you through that's going to answer your questions and make you feel comfortable and have you feel that you're making the right informed decision. Right. So a lot of what we're doing for the real estate partners is getting people on the phone or getting introduced to people, having really direct, honest, transparent conversations with them. And I don't mean this in any way to sound, cocky or whatever, but we do enough business on a monthly basis where I don't have to talk anybody into anything. Sure, if I think it's wrong.
We don't want to do that anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, when you deal with somebody, when you call the .com and they're the telemarketer and all they care about is the unit, they're not having those conversations with you. They're not pushing you into something that's better. They're pushing you into what's profitable, or they're not telling you that, hey, maybe we need to look at these couple things before they do this. They're just telling you that you're approved, and all they care about is the transaction. So I think when you can be a little bit detached from the outcome and just give good information and advice, people respect it. They make better decisions. And then when they do decide to move forward, they move forward really confidently and aggressively, and they feel like they're making a good decision. The whole transaction gets easier. I agree. So I think that's part of it. I think that's a big piece of it.
I feel like realtors are better off. They're armed with more knowledge than they were in the past. But with the market changing, especially with the lending changing, do you feel like you're still one of their biggest resources to help close a transaction? I mean, they need you obviously, but when you're talking to them, do you feel like they have a good grasp of what's going on the lending side of the house?
Yeah, for sure. I think there might be like the opposite issue, right? Like there's so much like exposure to information, whether it's accurate or not, right? Like on social media, you go through and you see all this stuff that gets posted, and then somebody will one of my real estate partners will send me a video and go, hey, how does this work? And it's like, well, the guy told you like 10% of the thing, but actually the way he said it, you can't actually do that.
That was a good short, but
yeah, it was catchy and it was like, it got your attention. But I think there's almost like, there's so much going on in the business and in the industry. Like it's hard for people that are like thumb on the pulse to really keep up with getting real-time information out there. But
that's true.
I think that, I think we are still one of the biggest resources, and I think our role remains the same, right? Communication, speed, expertise, having that person feel comfortable with it when they're out doing showings on Saturday and Sunday. They're not wasting their time and they're looking at the right stuff.
Yes.
And when they find the right thing, they know it's the right thing and they can be decisive, right? And they can actually make a decision.
It's so important to our partners, and I hear this all the time. On my end, on the property management end, it's like, hey, please give me an accurate set of comps so that if my client, my investor buyer is buying something, that when we close, they're actually going to be able to rent it for that amount of money. And then on your end, it's like, hey, your realtor partner is saying, please make sure this approval is worth something, because if we go and I spend weekend after weekend and then we can't close on something, that drives them crazy. So it makes sense why you have to be so accurate. What can they do or to help you get them to that level?
The client or
the realtor, what can they do to help make that process go well?
Yeah, I think that once they make the introduction, I think knowing what the process is, once they make the introduction, like that's usually good enough. We'll take it from there. It just becomes like you said, you're going out and showing things week after week, and you want to be thorough. Yeah. Like we do what we do on that process to make sure that all these pre-approvals that go out are bulletproof. Yep. We don't have that issue. But at the same time, what you don't want is somebody who didn't get all the information. They go out, they get excited about a house, they write an offer, they get into contract, and then they decide, oh my God, I'm in contract to do this thing and I don't have all the data. I'm not actually comfortable. And then those deals fall apart or they get really bumpy when they don't need to. So
as we wrap it up, what's made you so successful, not just your experience and your mindset and your coaching, but you're also an investor as well. With 2 minutes that we got left.
Yeah.
Talk to me, update us on your Oceanside multiplex that you got.
Yeah.
I know we don't have tons of time, but I'd love to hear an update on how you were able to navigate such a tough situation on a great property.
Yeah. So I think last time we talked, we had just maybe evicted one of the people
closed
that was
on the property.
Kind of like
finally got one of the three out.
Person, yeah. So yeah, that worked. That ended up working out. We found a great tenant. They're on a long-term lease with us. I don't short-term that property or mid-term it at all, so it's all long-term. It covers all the expenses. So for me right now, that's essentially a break-even scenario. Maybe we could kick in a couple $100 for utilities from time to time in the high seasons for AC and water. Yep. But otherwise, it's worked out really well. We have a lot of conversations with people that want to buy investment properties, and that's one of the toughest things right now is looking at that and getting those deals to pencil all the time. Yeah. And then what a lot of people, there's all these gurus on Instagram and TikTok that talk about cash flow. And so as a regular investor that has regular amounts of money to buy an investment property, that cash flow might not be there right away, right? Yeah. That might be more of a long game. So how do we get you into something that is going to at least pay for itself and you're going to have your tenants paying off your asset? And then how do we wait for the market to, either appreciate or rates to come down so that we can refinance and we start creating that cash flow? That's just it's a tough conversation. We're in it right now in Oceanside, so it's a great case study for us to talk to people about. But people just aren't there yet. They're going, wait, I'm going to part with how much money, and then I'm gonna owe $100. Like, what do we mean? So you got to say, hey, in 20 years, what's this thing worth? And our $1.7 million fourplex, when you take it out over 20 years with below average appreciation, just to be conservative, in 20 years. That thing's worth $5 million, and we paid a couple $100 a month to float some utilities. It's a pretty good deal.
This is why people go to you, because you have experience across the board. Yeah. Chris, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate all your insight, not just on the realtor side and on the lending side, but the investment side as well.
Yeah.
Everybody else, thank you for tuning in to the CashFlow podcast, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. We'll see you next week.